Hey YouTube, Dave here. Thank you for tuning in. Today, what I want to talk about is how to transmute the darkness into the light. So I think this is a very relevant topic. I think this is definitely some good tools and skills to have when coming through challenges in life. Now, we all have a light side and a dark side. We all want to stay in the light because the light is pleasurable and it's nice to be there and we want to be there. However, if we only always ever stay in the light, we never really get to know the true essence of who we are. We have a dark side and we have it for a reason, and that reason is to help you expand into a fully realized conscious being. But it's very uncomfortable to visit sometimes, and we have generally been told that our dark side is evil or bad or is just socially unacceptable to express or be that way. So it's very easy to stuff down into the unconscious and not deal with it. So let's take a look at how we deal with it, how we take our negative emotions and transform them into positive ones, and how we deal with that. So the first step in order to do this is you have to be able to recognize them. You have to be able to acknowledge that they are there. And so there's a lot of uncomfortable things that our shadow tells us. We're not good enough, or we're unloved, or we're rejected, or we deserve to be treated poorly. And there's all sorts of things that our dark side tells us that we buy into that are not true, but they're there. And in order to transmute them and transform them, we have to acknowledge that they are there. Until you take that first step and acknowledge that, you can't make any progress. So to acknowledge that, there's a couple tools that are very, very helpful. The first one is your own judgments. Walking into scenarios and situations and looking at where you're judging people, where you're judging yourself, how self-critical you are in any situation, or how you're judging other people or situations around you. Because at the deepest level, judgments of others are also judgments of yourself, and judgments of others are what you truly think about yourself deep down inside. So if you can recognize when you're doing that, that becomes a very wonderful tool to help you identify what's going on in your subconscious mind. So when you find yourself judging someone or something or situation, just step back, recognize that you've done it, and then immediately replace it with prayer of loving kindness. Look at the person and pull back that judgment and just say, may you be at peace. May you find the answers you're looking for. May there be an end to your suffering and pain. May you just be in love, and that's it. And every time you can do this, it can diffuse that judgment and diffuse the power of that subconscious dark side. The other part of acknowledging and recognizing where your dark side is in control is just realizing and recognizing where there is disharmony in your life. Wherever there is disharmony in your life, that dark side has reared its ugly head. Wherever this disharmony is in your life, there is a part of you that is contributing towards it. And you have to kind of put your ego aside and stop thinking that it's someone else's fault, and recognize how you are either consciously or even unconsciously, and most of the times it's unconscious. You don't know what you're doing, but somehow you're contributing towards the situation, because fear fractures the mind and creates different pieces of your own mind that are in opposition to each other. And when you bring love and wholeness, love to the situation, it brings wholeness to your mind and unity within the mind, and it can all work together to focus in the same direction. So when there's disharmony in your life, there's a very important question you have to ask is, and it takes a lot of, you got to be humble, you got to bring some humility and be able to be a bit vulnerable here, but you've got to ask yourself the question, in what way in my behavior am I contributing towards this, and what is it that I don't want to admit about myself? Because when your shadow's in control, you can't see it. And so what is it that you want to don't want to know about yourself. And when you can start to be humble enough and vulnerable enough to start digging into that question, then you can start to recognize where your shadow is in control and then start to transmute it. So the next stage, after you can kind of recognize where your shadow is in control, your dark side is taking over, the next stage is to disarm your triggers, to know what situations you go into and know where you're triggered and where the emotions get out of control, and be very clear about those situations before you go into them, what you are going into them for. And so when you can recognize those situations, now you go into them with the mindset, I am here to disarm my trigger. I'm not here to get into an argument, to continue a fight. There is something within me that is taking control, and I don't want that to happen anymore. I want to take my power back. I want to bring more harmony into my life. And when you use those situations with some mindful tools, some breathing, some body awareness, some emotional awareness, some awareness of your thoughts and feelings, you can start to go into those situations and disarm your triggers and see the situations in a different way. So the next step after you disarm your triggers is to open your empathy. Now it's very, very hard to open your empathy unless your triggers are really disarmed. As long as you're going into a situation and you're triggered, very tough to open your empathy. But when you open your empathy to the other person, you start to feel what they are feeling. And if you're not sure, or if you can't open your empathy, just try and put yourself in their shoes, what they've gone through, what they've been through. Take it from their point of view. And if you can do this and open up your empathy, you actually start to feel what the other person feels. You know more about where they're coming from and what's going on. You start to feel their pain and suffering as well. And when you can do this, this opens your heart up automatically. And then you start to actually want to help the person, or if not, even at least feel a little bit sorry for them. And this changes the dynamic of the relationship between you and the other person. Because instead of you going into the situation looking for a fight or expecting them to meet your needs in order for you to behave properly, you're now coming at them from a place of compassion and being genuine and wanting to help. And when you do this, this changes the dynamic of how they behave towards you. And so you can never really truly change how someone else behaves. All you can do is change how you behave and act towards them, and give them the freedom of choice to then decide if they want to change and behave in a new way towards you. But when you open up your empathy to them, this sort of increases the chances that they'll act a little bit nicer towards you. And so if you can do this, this always brings the light of new information into your mind. There's a new piece of information that always comes in, something you haven't seen or couldn't see because you were still stuck in your triggers. And when you become aware of this new piece of the information, you start to see the entire puzzle for what it was and what was really going on. And you're like, I can't believe how stupid I was being. And when you have that realization and that shift, it changes the dynamic totally and goes a very long way to continuing that, transform that dark energy within you into love and light. The final step into transmuting this energy, the dark energy within you into light, is of course forgiveness. And once you've opened up your empathy and you can see what's going on and you have a different perspective, usually from this, you can then start to forgive the other person, or they can forgive you. And forgiveness is not conditional. So if someone asks you for your forgiveness, you either give it or you don't, but don't make your forgiveness of them conditional on them meeting your behavior. And if you can't, or have trouble forgiving yourself and you're still stuck in blame, then maybe ask someone else that was involved in the scenario for that forgiveness, because maybe they can give it to you if you have trouble doing it. But if you are stuck in the situation where you felt like you have been wronged and someone else has to make it up to you, and you can't forgive them, that means you have not fully disarmed your trigger yet. Your dark side or shadow is still in control, and you still got a little bit more work to do in opening that empathy and seeing the situation from a new and different perspective. When you are able to forgive, you finally start to learn the lesson that your shadow was trying to teach you. You understand why the situation happened, what was going on, how you grew from it, and you get the total picture. And when you do this and you learn the lessons of what life was trying to teach you, that is the final step of transmuting that darkness within you into light. So remember, your dark side is not evil, it's not bad. It's there to teach you something, it's there to help you grow and expand, but just in an uncomfortable way. So if you can recognize it, accept it, learn to pay attention to your judgments and where there's disharmony in your life, know how you're contributing to those situations and being able to admit it, disarm your triggers, open up your empathy, bring new information into your mind where you can see the perception of what's going on from a higher perspective and understand how the other person is feeling, learn to forgive, and then learn the lessons that you were supposed to learn that the dark side of yourself was trying to teach you. That is how you transmute the dark side of you into light. This is how you grow. This is how you expand. And the thing is, the more you do this, the more you are able to hold a greater compassion and love within you, not only for yourself, but others. You grow the light within you, but as this light gets bigger and bigger and brighter, it also casts a bigger and darker shadow within yourself, which you then have to continue to go into and face and embrace and see what it's trying to teach you and transmute it into more light, which creates even more light within you, and so on and so forth. So excuse me, the process is never ending because you are eternal and you are infinite. And this is how you grow and expand your consciousness into that eternal, infinite being. This is how you move out of duality-based thinking into unity-based consciousness. This is how you increase your capacity to hold love and be love. Okay, that's it. So thank you very much for watching. And if you want to read the full in-depth article, please check out my website. I'll put the link below. And much love to everyone. And thank you for watching.